Welcome to It Can Get Better Than This. I'm Dr. Cindy Byler,
And I'm Heather Hodge.
and we're going to film our second episode. Woo!
Woohoo!
And we brought this wonderful table with us today.
Yes.
Casey St. Croix, and I made this a couple years ago. And you can find her on Facebook if you would like a similar table. She makes other great products as well.
Yes. And she also has an Etsy shop called Heart Made Collective if you want to check her out on Etsy. Really, really good stuff. She also makes those ghost stickers.
Oh, yeah, those are fun ghost
Fun.
stickers for this time of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
So today we kind of want to explain our name.
Yeah. Our name, it
It
can
can
get better than
we're
this.
going to say it at the same time. So, um,
So, what can get better than this?
right. So let's start with it.
Okay.
Okay,
What's
so
it?
it is going to be different for every person. So it is the thing that you want to change right now in your life, or that you've wanted to change for a long time in your life, like your marriage, or even more specifically, how you react in your marriage when there's a conflict, or better communication skills in your marriage.
Yeah. Or it could be it could be anything. It could be your finances want to get better, your mental state wants to get better,
Hmm.
your relationships beyond your marriage, your with your parents, with your children, co-workers, friends, family, your boundaries.
Right. Yeah, and we're not this is in no way ever a like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or like you can get this fixed. Like, what's wrong with you?
Right, right.
This is a change takes time. And so that is a lot of times why the it of it can get better than this hasn't changed, because we don't have the tools or skills that we need to change it.
Mm.
So your mental disorder might never go away. Your finances aren't going to change right this minute. Your circumstances don't change quickly, otherwise, you would have already changed them. And you can't change other people. All you can do is change what's inside of yourself and how you respond to life's events.
I bet that little changes along the way, the little steps that you take to change are extremely relieving though.
Yeah, yeah, even small changes can make you start to see progress and to give you hope that, okay, I can see the big picture. This can a lot more can change. There's some things that aren't going to get better for a very long time. And then there's some things that will get better with those small goals and small steps where you start feeling some relief and hope. And then there's some things that do get better almost immediately once you start implementing them in your life. So what we want to do is work on keys for different parts of your life that can get better. And it takes changing your mindset. And that takes time and learning new ways and new skills to make changes in your life.
That's one of the things I've been trying to do is a mindset change first and foremost before I do anything else. One of my problems, whether it's personally or in my marriage or with my baby or whatever, has been how worked up I get.
Hmm.
So, one of the first things that I try to do is work on my mindset before addressing any problems.
Yeah.
Affirmations help a lot. I have a whole list of anger affirmations too, and I tell myself things like, "Whatever you do or say is not their fault. How they made you feel is still under your control and what you decide to do with it."
Right.
And I, that talking myself down with a mindset change helps me address the problem a lot more productively than it would otherwise.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. And that's one of the first steps that we'll deal with in the coming episodes is how you can change your own mindset and start controlling your own emotions.
Take yourself back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the it, and it can get better than this. Then what is better?
It can get better. What's better?
Better um, is shifting your mindset. And sometimes our better that we start with, that we imagine, is not what actually becomes better or how it becomes better
Yeah.
when we start making changes. Like some people, their better is changing the situation that they think I'm going to need to like step away from my parents completely and cut them out of my lives, or I'm going to need need to divorce my husband in order for my life to get better. When sometimes it's not that, it's drawing your own boundaries and changing how you're approaching things. And then the better isn't the divorce or being estranged from your parents or being cut off from your parents. It's changing the relationship, and that gets better.
Yeah, as long as the other party is doing it too, of
Right,
course.
right. Yeah, and sometimes when we make the initial step, it 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 throws the relationship, whichever relationship it is, off balance, off it's equilibrium because you've been doing things the same way and the same way, and it's producing the same results. But when you put a little thing in there where you're doing something completely different, like controlling your emotions and not lashing back out, then it throws the equilibrium off, and then they have to think about how they're going to respond to the difference.
Yeah.
So your mental challenge might not go away, but we can find better ways to cope with it and live beyond it. And I'm not saying that you just keep going and it just like goes in the distance, it's not with you. But our brain is the most complex organism probably on this planet, but definitely within our body. And it can overcome incredible odds. So, like somebody that has ADD, they can start by learning coping skills to get better by learning to like just stop and think about what they're going to say and can change in their mindset before they just say it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I personally am um ADD inattentive type and very, very deep into the spectrum. I scored on my I had a professional diagnosis and was in the 98th percentile for ADD inattentive type.
Hmm.
And it is a struggle to be ADD and not, I mean, your whole the whole way you cope with things, you have to keep up with it. That's the design.
Right.
You have to keep doing these things, and that can be hard sometimes. But when I do things for my future self, like pick my outfit out the night before instead of trying to scramble to think through it the day of, or um, if I have a task coming up, if I'm able to lay out everything that I need for the task and put it in one spot, if I can set alarms for things,
Hmm.
and if I remember to put everything in my calendar and things like that, I'm so much happier and so much less stressed out. How would you say that?
Yeah.
I'm a lot less stressy.
You're less stressy.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's learning things, and we'll address those kinds of things too that will help different mental health challenges that people have so that they can uh, go beyond what their present expectations are at their life. Your relationships might be really crappy right now, but there are keys that can help you heal and help you change how you're processing your own thoughts and your own emotions. That can be the beginning of working on the relationship, like we just talked about before. So, we're filming this podcast to find ways to create circumstances that are better than where you are right now. And that's the whole key to better. And sometimes that better changes.
Yeah, part of my better after getting divorced at a young age was I really pictured my life, especially living in a smallish town in the southeast. I
Hmm.
really pictured getting married by 22, having the first baby by 23, 24, and being done with having kids by 29, and being 40 and in my 40s at their graduations, and was devastated when that wasn't what the big picture turned out to be.
Hmm.
But getting married at 27 and having my first baby at 28, actually, um there are a lot of things that are a lot easier than they would
Oh,
have been
yeah.
for me personally getting married younger, cuz younger, admittedly, I was a lot more self-centered than I am. I had a much shorter fuse. I did not have the tools that I have now to cope with ADD or with anger issues or with yeah, with any of those things. So,
There was the ADD moment.
yep, there it went. It also helped me feel like I could let my guard down and play on a team and trust that my spouse had my best interest at heart
Hmm.
instead of having trust issues and feeling like I had to protect myself or myself and my kid first, my husband and I were able to be on one team and not afraid of, well, okay, but who's going to look after me? Are you just going to crush me and eat me alive if,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that being on the defense?
Yeah. So that was actually better than what you had originally pictured. Even though your life was different, the difference was better than what it was the first time that you were married.
Oh yeah. And there are things
Yeah.
that I'm going to grieve, you know. I wanted to
Yes.
be a lot younger. Maybe that's just a little selfish on my part. I wanted to be a lot younger at her high school graduation.
You'll still look good, chick.
Thanks. But yeah, um my husband and I talked about it, and we've talked about that a lot. Like, I'm so glad that we got each other at the age we did, even though we've known
Hmm.
each other our whole lives. I'm so glad we got each other now because neither one of us were ready for each other
When you were
then.
younger. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were friends that whole time too. We just still were not ready for each other.
When I was younger in my adult life, I went from being somebody that was more outspoken and sure of myself to marrying into a family that was a lot more dominating than what my family was.
Oh yeah,
Or
the whole culture was like that.
yes,
They were kind of stuck in a patriarchal old world kind of view of Christianity.
right. So my role was to support him in everything that he did, and to raise the kids. And so as I got a little older and got into therapy myself, I started drawing better boundaries around my life and what I was actually responsible for and not responsible for. And we were in a relationship where we didn't speak of divorce, that we were going to stay together no matter what and make it work. And so we both worked on our communication skills and including how we dealt with our anger towards the situation that we were dealing with one another. And we worked on the relationship to the point that it did get better than this. And our marriage really took a hit for a while, but now as we came out of it and really worked on our communication skills and on our relationship, then it is better than it's ever been and really better than I ever thought it could be.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that that doesn't, we're not saying that that works for every marriage,
Right.
that both parties have to,
Yes, it has to be both parties. It,
yeah,
it is not just one person's responsibility
to fix it.
to fix it. Often one person is the initiator that starts it, and it's
Right.
not always the wife, sometimes it's the husband, but it takes both parties really working at it to in order for it to heal and to get better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily work in an abusive situation either. That's
Definitely. Abusive
completely
situation is
different.
a completely different situation.
And that's
Yes.
mentally, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah. Abuse.
That,
Yes.
yeah.
Most definitely. Okay, so that's it can get better. So this is the situation that the person is in right now. This
Hmm.
is where I'm at. It can get better than this. So again, that's your marriage, your relationship with yourself is very important relationship.
Yes.
Your relationship with your kids, whether they're little babies like we have for little baby Ailey, or if they're sorry, that's my grandkid, or if they're teenagers, especially when they get to be teenagers and adults. Your relationships with your parents, if you're a teenager or if you're an adult now. Um, your coworkers, your habits. We can work on habits if that's your it and this. Your mentality and your outlook about life and even your expectations.
Yeah.
So, movies and books.
Yeah. A lot of, I think we get a really, I think we get a really weird idea of what we want our lives to look like, because when you look at it in movies or we read about it in books, it's this futuristic, there's no more problems in the world, everything is much better.
We live happily ever after.
Yeah. Oh, that is ingrained. I mean, that's been ingrained for years though. I mean, at least
Yes,
since the, I mean, since, well, I guess I don't know if I can say, at least since it was in
in different
movies
animated
and stuff.
movies, right?
Yeah, the happily ever after's been everywhere, and I think we need to look at starting small with steps. And that's
Yes.
what we're trying to do, is give you tools and coping mechanisms and healthy ideas of things like boundaries to propel you to find better and peace in yourself, a healthier version of you, a happy version of you.
Right.
One of the segments we'd like to introduce on the podcast is called Cindy's Bookshelf. It's a working title, but for now, let's introduce our first book recommendation.
Yeah, I want to recommend a foundational book to improving your life. A lot of problems can be traced back to having weak boundaries. And this is one of my favorite books that I recommend to almost everybody that walks through my counseling door. It's called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. I've actually met both of them in real life.
Oh,
Now, there's a whole series, but I really want you to consider starting with the Basic Boundaries book. It's just called Boundaries, not the Basic Boundaries book. But I want you to start with the Boundaries book. And what this does is it helps you figure out what are you responsible for and what are other people responsible for. It helps you learn to draw boundaries around your life so that you can learn what you're responsible to control and fix and what other people are responsible to control and fix. This was very instrumental in helping me start making changes in my life, was this book.
yeah. They have a great series too. They have Boundaries with Teens, Boundaries with Kids. Um, I mean, I've loved them even for teaching, but I've loved them for my new parenting journey as well.
Yes.
Really good book.
We'll talk
Good
about
series.
another episode, we'll talk about boundaries with children.
Oh, yeah. Boundaries with Children. Sorry.
Yeah, Boundaries with Children is an
Sorry.
excellent book. It actually transformed how I was parenting my children. And we're going to draw from some of that book and future episodes. So thank you so much for listening today.
Absolutely. Next week, we're going to be talking about stretchy brains.
Stretchy brain.
Ooh.
So I'm a nerd and geek out on brain science. And so we're going to be bringing brain science into the episode. Now, I'm not a brain science doctor.
No, you're not a neuroscientist.
I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have been studying this stuff through courses for years. And so I'm excited to bring you some stretchy brain keys.
Material.
Stretchy brain material. And that'll really be, the next episode would be really foundational, just like this is a foundational book. The next episode will be a foundational key that we will interweave throughout our podcast to help you learn, learn better communication skills and how you can work with your brain so that you can have a happier, healthier life. Thank you for joining us this week. Remember, it can get better than this.
We'll see you next week.